Good morning, everyone. It is July the 27th, 2026. After I put up the video with the police chief talking about the stabbings here in the Byward Market, just before the weekend, there was another couple of stabbings in the Byward Market and another stabbing further out in the community, way out in the community, another section of Ottawa in Craig Henry. All happened over the weekend as well. And I think one of the things I enjoy about it is when I put up these different videos they have maps and they show exactly where the stabbings are and occurring in whatever part of the city that they might be in. I know a lot is certainly in the Byward Market here for certain. And but if you notice the ones in the Byward Market, when you compare the maps, you'll see they're all centered in between two of the shelters. And this is an area that if you feel uncomfortable, or you're a tourist, for an example, and you feel uncomfortable, it's a good idea to make sure you have a city map and perhaps actually go through the city map and mark that particular area off. So if you don't want to walk by these people who are doing the drugs and that and around the shelters, for your own safety, that would be a good idea as well. And the Craig Henry, which is another area outside, well, in Ottawa, because we have well over 1 million people, so we have many different wards here, 24 wards, plus a huge city area to cover as well. And that one will show you when I put up that video on the update on that stabbing as well. On the third video, it's not always a good idea to intervene when things are happening. And I'll explain that in the video at the time when I do talk about it. And that was a father apparently tried to interrupt an argument between 3 teenagers that were under 15, 3 girls. And one of the girls apparently was the daughter of the gentleman, the father, who apparently got stabbed trying to break up the fight. So it's one of the reasons why I say it's really debatable whether you want to go in and break up a fight or not. And this is one of the reasons why I did have Julian, to show that it's mostly concentrated, the stabbings, within the homeless population, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen somewhere else either, so you still need to be aware of your surroundings. But it's also what's happening with our teenagers today, that we must be more aware of what's going on with our teenagers, what's going on in their lives, their personal lives, who they're hanging around with. I know certainly having a parent, a stay-home parent when I was growing up, my mother certainly kept more track of where I was going at the time, and I know it's hard today with 2 parents working, and definitely the pressures that we're under financial-wise today is just incredible. So there's a lot of reasons that things are happening. But I know myself, in the case of, I have a teenage granddaughter who's 14 years old now, and she's really a very interesting person. She's at that stage where she's asking all kinds of questions, and she wants you to just come up with the answers like that. And I'm certainly not a computer, but she's also interested in what my life was like growing up as a teenager here in Ottawa and the things that happened to me. And so I'd like to try and spend some quality time with my granddaughter, and this is one of my grandchildren that I'm talking about right now. And to me, quality time is something that we can do together. Well, I found out this spring she was really interested. She was just starting to discover the library. And I found out why is because the good thing about it is, now that they're taking the phones away from the school kids, that they're having to learn to, for an example, they can't go just to their phone and look it up on a map there. Now they're learning how to actually learn how to read maps, like we used to have to read maps. And I explained to her, for an example, well, it's really important because if anything happens, all our technology goes down. It's much better to know that you know how to read an old-fashioned map, in a sense of the word, so that you know where you're going and what you're doing. And again, as I explained to her, sometimes the technology does break down. And I was explaining to her about the GPS, for an example, in the car. And I was telling her, if this hadn't have been caught on security camera, and shown to the public. Nobody would have believed this. And it was about a woman. She was driving along. She was following her GPS, and she just drove right down the boat ramp and right into the lake. And of course, the car sunk, and they had to pull her out of the car. And when the police officer asked her, well, why did you just drive down the boat ramp when you saw the lake there and decide to go in the lake with the car? And she said, well, because my GPS told me to. And so, of course, my granddaughter kind of laughed, but she said, well, what's the matter? Doesn't she have any common sense? If she saw the water, why did she just drive right in? And I said, well, that's because she's so tied up with her and believes that the GPS was telling her what she was supposed to do. And then she said, oh, now I'm understanding a little bit better. We have to use our head for things. And I said, yes, common sense is one of the things that we have to use. But I also found out that she really enjoys the library. She's finding out now that there's so much in the library. So I said, that's fine. You'll have your bus pass. Go get your bus pass. I'll get my bus pass. And I'll take you down to the main library downtown. So we went down to the main library, and she's just like, wow, all these books is bigger than our school library and the smaller library branches that we have around the city at the same time. So when I walked in, the first thing I saw was a book, great big book on Amelia Earhart. Earhart, I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, the first female pilot to try and fly around the world, although we did lose her. So we sat down looking at this book and the pictures, and just sitting there at a table, sharing a book and just going through the pages. She was fascinated. It was just so different from scrolling through a phone and just having the physical touch of the paper. Plus my sitting there just explaining what was going on, how she was the first female pilot to try to go around the world. But first she had to conquer being a female and being a pilot, because that wasn't acceptable back then in those days. So she did that. She went across the Atlantic Ocean first, then she did the Pacific, and then she attempted to go around the world. And of course, we know the plane disappeared with her and her co-pilot in it as well, and she was never found. But it was a whole story that went behind her. And she's looking at me, and I'm giving her answers. She's trying to ask questions, and we're going through the book. And it was a wonderful way just to spend an afternoon in the library. And then she got a bigger kick out of it, because down in the lobby, this is our main library right now, and it's small, and it's outdated. So for the last several years, we've been building a new library in the city. It's huge. It's very modern, up to date, and the pictures that were showing, like, she was just wide-eyed. Well, where is this library, Grandma? And I said, well, we got our bus pass. Let's go. I'll show you where it is, where they're building it. So then we went down, and I was able to show her this beautiful big building that's being built, and she's really looking forward to going into the library with me there when it's open. She can hardly wait, because she's discovering the world of books now as well. And it's another way of being able to, like, she doesn't understand the cursive writing, so I think I'm going to try and teach her a little bit of the cursive writing as well, because that's what I do. It's mostly the printing. But to be able to sit there in the library with a book, and she's actually doing reading one paragraph, and I'm reading another paragraph, and just having that quality time and bonding with her to explain the world outside with her. And now she's trying to get some of her closest friends are starting to go to the library with her as well. So trying to keep these teenagers out of trouble so they don't get into trouble is another way of looking at it. And this is when I say we're grandparents, if you've got grandparents, can be very, very valuable. And again, even with my other grandchildren on the weekend, I went to see with the younger children, the Minions, since the new movie's out. So again, it was spending quality time with the family as well, with the parents and my grandchildren. So we had a nice family outing as well. So it's the things that we can do as grandparents as well, to invite and make sure that our children and our grandchildren are in a good place. Because sometimes that 2 or 3 hours just out, even on a movie, or that 2 or 3 hours in an afternoon spent with a grandchild, can be worth more than a weight in gold for them, because it's all the attention is on them, and they're at that age where they're asking all kinds of questions, and I can't always answer the questions. Sometimes, well, we can look it up in the book, or we can sometimes Google at this point can help us. So it's teaching them how to use the technology properly as well for answering questions that we need to get answered, and keeping them out of trouble. And I could go on because there's so many things, but I think I just want to also give one more little story before I finish this. And that was while I was in the library. They had a display in the display case. And one of them was the old-fashioned wooden phone box that they would have on the wall in around probably about the 1920s or so. And that's the one where you have the big thing out of the wooden box and you have to talk into, and then you have the hook there for your ear, and then you have to crank it on the side. And I was telling her about my parents having a friend having a farmhouse. So we went to visit them, and they had this great big moose head hung up above the phone. And so I stood on the chair. I was probably about 4 to 5 years old at the time. And I still remember this, having to stand on the chair because I wanted to pat the moose head. But then I got really interested in the phone. So I actually got a chance. The phone was still working back in the, this probably would have been, in the late 1950s. And it was still working. And the farmer's wife turned around, she cranked up the phone, and I actually got to talk on this phone to which would have been the switchboard operator. And back then, so my granddaughter's looking at me, well, what's a switchboard operator? So then I went through and explained what a switchboard operator was, where when you called in and they connected you in physically, and it's not like just being on an extension that we do today. Oh yeah, just punch in a number and get the extension of whoever you want to talk to. So she is learning a lot. So I'm going to leave it there for everyone today. But I just want to explain just how we can actually help the young people today, because they seem to be seeing too much violence, and they seem to be looking at the idea that how do we settle an argument? Violence? No, that's not the way to do it. So I'm going to leave it there, everyone, today. Take care, be safe, watch your surroundings, and we'll talk again soon. And bye-bye.